Well, actually, stories, they're like fingerprints. Everyone has they're unique to every single individual. So that's what a story is. It's, it separates you from your competition. It's how they identify you. Where there's someone, when networking, I'm always going through with people do business with those they know, like, and trust. That story gets you over that gulf of knowing and liking and trusting you, because people can identify with you more so because they can see themselves working with you because they know more about who you are.
Welcome to Winning Strategies Playbook, the podcast where we welcome business leaders, CEOs, and industry experts to discuss the rise to the top, building wealth, and real estate insights. Here's your host, Jeremy Spann.
Welcome to Winning Strategies Playbook. For more information on this show, you can go to our website, myexperiencedrealtor.com. That's experience with an ED for my fellow Marines out there. Because we're all Webster Dictionary graduates, right? Go to myexperiencedrealtor.com, click on podcasts. You can download all these episodes from all the different platforms. And of course, if you're looking to buy and sell real estate anywhere on the planet, go to the landing page, click Find a Trusted Professional, and then we'll get you with someone that is a great advisor to help you buy and sell real estate, because not everybody out there is great, but we'll find you a great one. But we're not here to talk about real estate today. We are here, as you click on that podcast button, go down to Jarrod, Fitch, and Jason Roberson. And gentlemen, welcome to the show. Jarrod and Jason, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks.
Doing good. Mm-hmm. So for the audience, we share somebody in common. A very handsome man. A very tall, handsome man, who only smiles about 3 times a year, I think.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
You're lucky. Kevin Davis, for the audience out there, he's been on the show twice. You've already heard his story. You see what he's doing. He called me and said, look, if you want your show to be a success, then you've got to get Jason and Jarrod in here. And I was like, hey, I have nothing but females in my house, so I'm used to being told what to do. So welcome to the show, guys. Glad you're here. My father-in-law, when I decided to start a podcast series, said, you got to do a joke. So now I do bad jokes. Mm-hmm. So that way, every time he listens to it, it annoys him. Mm-hmm. Right? So both of you guys are dads. So I got one for you.
All right. We're ready for it.
Go for it.
How can you tell it's a dad joke?
Oh, I know this. When it becomes apparent.
You're the only one that oh, my man.
Yes.
Yeah. After all these bad jokes, you're the only one that actually knew the punchline.
My daughter gave me a dad joke book for Father's Day, and that was the one that resonated with me. I said, I like that one. I'm going to tell it to everybody. And you told it to me, so that's perfect.
And for the audience, we did not plan this out.
Right.
Yes.
We did not plan this out. That is awesome. Actually, I know my show has become a success when my jokes are so bad that my guests know the answer. Right?
Wow.
It's like, hey, we're going to come in on the show. What dumb joke can he tell? Yeah. Oh, that one's going to be it. And we're going to have the answer. Like, I don't even know how to respond to it.
That's a good joke.
Hey, Jason, man, so that's why look, these guys, all right. If you need to hire anybody, do it, because he can already predict your future.
Yes.
So, guys, what is it that you guys do?
We tell stories.
You tell stories?
We tell stories.
Oh, good, because see, I'm also full of shit, so I do it all the time, too.
And we clean up stories, too.
Yes.
Right. Me would be a full-time job for you.
Yeah, we help people focus their stories, and really, because what separates companies, it separates individuals, is your story, because we are in a society where basically all businesses are really kind of commodities now. And that story is what truly separates you from your competition. It makes you, you always talk about differentiators, and telling that story is really what differentiates you from someone who's doing the exact same thing you're doing. So, wow. And everyone's story is unique to them. They're like fingerprints. Everyone's story is unique. So,
interesting. Say that one more time with the fingerprints.
What?
Say that for me one more time.
Well, actually, stories, they're like fingerprints. Everyone has they're unique to every single individual. So that's what a story is. It's, it separates you from your competition. It's how they identify you. Where there's someone, when networking, I'm always going through with people do business with those they know, like, and trust. That story gets you over that gulf of knowing and liking and trusting you, because people can identify with you more so because they can see themselves working with you because they know more about who you are. So,
man, so Anybody that's watching this show, what they're seeing me do right now is take a selfie with these guys so I can send it to Kevin Davis, because when he said not only were you guys good looking, that y'all were articulate and that you were wise, that one stopped me in my tracks. That is one of the best ways I've ever heard anything put. Stories are as unique as your fingerprints.
Well, and the idea comes from the idea that everything is a commodity. There's nothing that we are producing that's really unique and different. Very few companies out there have created something that no one else has ever thought of. So the only thing that's really separating you is why are you doing it? It's a story. The story is the only thing that's really separating you from the competition.
It's asking those simple questions that they seem like simple questions, but they're really hard. Most people out there, if you ask their employees why you exist, a lot of people's employees, a lot of their customers can't really answer that question. And that story helps facilitate and actually push that question out to people where they actually can internalize it. Or I remember one of my old companies I worked for, I was there a few months and I went and talked to someone who was my senior director. And I asked, how do we make money? And she was like, actually, I was here 5 years before I realized how we did that. And those are things which are so impactful. In fact, these are very simple questions. Jason will talk about, one of the questions he asked, who has your money?
That's an important question.
Those are really important questions.
Yeah, that gets at who your customers are. Yeah. And then the follow-up question is, why should they give you that money?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who has your money and why should they give it to you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And those stories can help you answer those questions. And just that legacy of what you have. We've talked to so many business owners who their biggest fear is that when I'm gone, who can help take over this and take my legacy on and what I've dreamed here? Who can take that to the next generation? Who can take that? And stories help do that. It can help facilitate that trust. If someone knows your story and they care about your story, that's that buy-in that helps them really take on and run with the baton of your business, of your legacy, and it moves on to that next generation, and it goes on past you. So, and we ran into so many business owners who that's their fear, and we try to tell them, you know what, your story's unique, your story's special. Let us help you tell it. That's what we do. So
let me guess, you guys were born with all this wisdom, right?
No, it comes through failures. It's come through working for other companies who didn't tell their story correctly. I used to be the editor of the Dallas Business Journal, the managing editor. And so many companies tried to pitch themselves to get in our papers. And we realized that your story is all discombobulated. No one knows exactly what you do. I realized I was working so hard trying to get to the crux of what makes this company special. They just had poor storytellers. And so I went to TCU, got the MBA, and realized that we can start a program ourselves. We can start our own company helping people tell their story.
Well, let's do that. Let's back up a little bit. And Jarrod, I'm going to start with you. Is where you come from?
Good. My background is I am a 20-year marketing
Let's go beyond even further now.
Where am I from?
Where were you born?
Jarrod Fitch is the quintessential military brat. I was actually born in the Philippines. I graduated high school in Germany, and I've been to all points in between there. But and just really, ended up going to the University of North Texas up in Denton, and met my wife there. We settled down, had a kid, and I know if I ever try to take my my in-laws' grandson away, they'd probably shoot me on sight. So I'm a Texas guy now.
So what branch of the military?
Actually, both. My dad was Air Force. My parents got divorced. My mom joined the Army.
Oh, wow.
So my mom is she's one of the most amazing, toughest women I know. She is a first Gulf War veteran, raised both my brother and I, on our own, and just really made sure we stayed on the straight and narrow. I mean, you hear so many tragic stories of what's the name of, single parents and stuff like that. But my mom, she really she made sure my brother and I, stayed on that straight and narrow. She's like 5'2", but can look down on me.
It's amazing. Moms have that ability, right? You're
Yes.
like, I'm taller than you, but I'm scared, terrified of you, though, at the same time, right?
Yep.
Fear can be a bad thing, but also a very healthy thing in raising children. Right? So you're having this experience of everything from the Philippines to everywhere else. Do you think that helped shape your perception on life?
Yes. What it did, it made me in the military. You're a Marine, so you know about just that. I won't say utopian like society, but the fact is that when you're in there, everyone. You don't go and like sometimes you see like in schools in the U.S. you see people separating themselves by race or separating themselves by like when I was overseas, especially in Nuremberg, Germany, where I graduated high school, it was just like it was almost like a TV show. That's what my wife calls it. She thought like lived in like Saved by the Bell or something like that because the fact is everyone is like commingling with each other. And it's like everyone's friends with each other. I have friends I've been out of high school 20 plus years now, but I'm still connected with just this rainbow coalition of friends of perspectives that and we all see each other as equals on that, and that's what that growing up in the military has really just has really shaped that worldview for me. So
we talked about down this avenue before we came in here, right?
Yes.
So you're growing up around this, we'll call it a modified utopia, right? And then you step out here into the civilian world. Was it a bit of an eye-opening, like, that we ain't in Kansas no more, Toto?
Yes, it definitely is. It's changed. One of the most interesting things about me growing up as a military brat is like when you're military, people don't know when you're military, you move a lot. So you learn how to disconnect and restart new lives elsewhere. So one of the biggest things with me, it's hard for me to make deep connections because I have a tendency to see things temporary. It went to the fact that I got married and settled down and had a kid that things started seeming more permanent to me, and knowing where I wanted to be. So so it just really truly shaped my worldview on things.
So you land in Texas, you go to University of North Texas, you meet your incredible wife, and naturally y'all have a kid, so you're, as you said before, you're like, my child's grandparents are not going to let me leave the state, so we're going to be here. Where does your journey take you from there after college?
Where journey takes me from there after college, honestly, but let me back up really quickly.
Okay.
Not only did I meet my wife there, I actually met my future business partner, Jason, there. You at UNT 20 plus years ago. It is, that right there is the other, standing relationship, my business partner here, Jason, on that. So, but after that, my journey took me through all avenues. I consider myself a hybrid marketer.
Okay.
Really.
Tell me more about that.
What a hybrid marketer on me, what it is that you ever go to those offices and they have one marketing person who does the trade shows and events, writes the corporate newsletter, does the copy for the website, designs all the graphics for the websites, takes out the trash, walks the dog. That's what I did. And that's how I kind of, that's how I really shaped my career, really touching all aspects of it, taking projects from concept to implementation through completion. And that's, and I love the flexibility I had early in my career with some of the jobs because I was the only marketing guy. I ended up being the marketing expert. Sure, they didn't pay me much of anything, but, I had those responsibilities of really, they said, if you have a plan, we'll see what we can do within reason to actually make it happen. So they let me run with the ball on a lot of these things. And that's where I really got that love development of storytelling, understood how a story separates you. It was very interesting. Like I worked for one of our first companies was a company called Tuttle & Bailey, which they were in the commercial HVAC industry, where they design, grills, registers, and diffusers for the ceiling air conditioning units. And those things are, you talk about commodity item, they are, because you can't look up at your ceiling unit and see what company that is, who makes it. So the only way to really separate it out was the fact is that company had been around since 1846. So I really was able to go in and dive in and just pull out the richest of that story and talk about how this product was around through all these great moments in history. basically the span of this country, this product had been around from the, World War I and World War II through Vietnam, through, World Trade Center, all these things. This product had been around. So I was able to really try to connect the history of this product and the meaning of what this product is seen versus to try and make it appeal to its audience, to our audience.
So how did, I'm trying to think of my question is, how do you do that? Is that something that is just natural for you, or was this a learned skill set for you?
Honestly, it's listening. It's really, we have a process at the Marketing MAB. It's listen, understand, tell, and listen is the most important part of that. It's really just, putting your ear and actually talking to people who had been there before and actually just sitting back and say, okay, tell me your story. And then compiling all that and then utilizing that into telling the brand story of the company. So
when you met Jason in college, did y'all even remotely have any idea or any desire to one day be business partners together?
No.
That was a very quick no.
Yeah, we were fraternity brothers, and
we were just partying and trying to graduate.
Yeah.
So.
Well, actually, when I came out, he was actually, to tell the truth, Jason was actually, his mindset was already on graduating. When I came up, because he had been in the fraternity for a few years, and he was in that stage, okay, partying's done, it's time for me to graduate, time for me to settle down. I was just really starting to get into the to that life, the party life. So we were on different paths that time, and Jason can really take over and tell you about how our paths separated there, but then it came back together, decades later. So
okay, well, that's a good segue. So where are you from, Jason?
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas.
Son of a preacher.
Son of a preacher.
Yeah, no, we're the worst ones. My dad is from the country, East Texas, and so he's a natural storyteller. And
preachers generally are, right?
Yeah, they're really good. And so I grew up watching him sell Jesus, to the congregants, and I admired the way he could get people wrapped up in a story. I mean, by the end of it, they were on the edge of their seats, ready to move, ready to act. And I started helping him write sermons. That was my gift. It wasn't necessarily standing in front of a crowd and preaching, but I love the writing part of it. So when I graduated high school, I went to UNT, and I went into, I think I started off as pre-med, took a couple of botany courses, realized this is not what I want to do.
No way.
Let me go with my first love, which is writing, and took some journalism courses, and I fell in love with it. I got a chance to interview different people, got a chance to find out what makes them tick, what are their fears, what are their passions, just love journalism. After college, I went to Dayton, Ohio, worked for the Dayton Daily News as a business writer, then the Detroit Free Press as an automotive writer covering business. And then I got a job at the Dallas Morning News, worked there for 4.5 years covering the business of healthcare. So that's my background. And then I started freelance writing for different magazines. And
for the audience who may or may not know what that means, what is freelance writing?
That means that you are an independent contractor, basically.
Okay.
And you supply writing. That's what freelance writing is. You are an independent contractor, and different companies will hire you to, write an assignment.
Okay.
So I also wrote some books too. I started writing books for a couple politicians, both sides of the aisle. And then we did a couple of Major League Baseball players. Wrote books for them, and business leaders.
So would it be accurate to say you're the talker, you're the writer?
Yeah. A little bit of both.
Yeah. We both can speak, but yeah, it's really getting out there. I was intended to take care of a lot of the operations and the what's going out there and networking and trying to, business development type piece of it. And Jason is really just that, really just nurturing the supply chain, making sure we, make sure our story is really correct. So we made a pretty strong partnership. Little did we know when we met 20 plus years ago that, that this was a partnership that could actually work. So on the part of it, so
he has a different gift than I do. Mm-hmm. I mean, his knack for organizing, being able to see the big picture, I think it's beautiful. And we butt heads, but in the right kind of way, And I couldn't have asked for a better partner. Mm-hmm. Just the way he thinks, it really complements the way I think.
So you went to TCU's executive MBA
I did.
program before you did, Jarrod.
Yes, he
right?
talked me into it. Yes.
Were y'all partners at the time?
We were not. No.
Okay, so
when I went into TCU, I was actually, at that time, I was a managing editor of the Dallas Business Journal. And a quarter of the way into the program, I realized that I wanted to do something different. TCU has a way of sparking that entrepreneurial spirit, and next thing you know, after one of the courses on entrepreneurship, I took the leap of faith, man.
was it with Ray Smiler?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Dr. Smiler, his course, it just excited me. I took the leap of faith, and we joined one firm. Initially, I pulled Jarrod into it.
Yeah, I saw that he joined the firm, and I was sitting at my desk in my corporate job, slowly dying, and I saw his change.
It was a
on
smaller
LinkedIn.
PR firm that
I saw his change on LinkedIn. I was like, you know what? And like I've always done corporate world, so I never did agency world beforehand. So I saw that
What
he
is
was
the difference between corporate world and agency world?
It's really it's the variety of projects that you do in the agency world, where you're not constantly talking about the same product or company over and over again. So that's really the huge difference on it. So and your assignments are going to be more limited in the agency world, where you're going to be in there for a project, and for that, and you can move on to something completely different. So you could be talking about, healthcare one day. Next thing you can be talking about automotive, something like that. So it just really depends. Some agencies specialize in certain aspects of it, but most of them are really going to have that variety. Corporate world, it is really you work for this company, you do marketing for this company, and you have these directives and
one trick pony, right?
Yes.
Whereas you're the whole herd when you're in an agency, right?
Yes.
You like how I make this like math for Marines, right? Like, okay, for my Marines out there, it's like, how do we break this down? Because they might like, that sounds really complicated. So you go do this executive MBA program at TCU, which I think all three of us would agree is just this amazing program.
Absolutely.
Right? And you go to this company, you see his LinkedIn update.
I pull him into the company.
Oh, you call him, and you're like,
I call him. I reach out.
You call him.
I say, what you doing? How you? Hey, want to meet you.
So you go to the company as well.
Yeah, I go to the company. Right? I reached out and he said, send me your resume. I'll give it to the person who ran the company, and that person was like, you know what? So he does events and he does marketing and he writes and all the other things like that. He's a unicorn. I want to bring him on. I want to talk with him. So we talked, and I did both roles for a while, but then eventually made that leap and actually joined the agency. So.
Okay, so what year? What year was that?
That was actually 2019.
2019?
No, yeah, those. It was 2019. Yeah, it would have to be 2019. Yeah,
first part 2019.
Yeah,
it didn't work out well. that company did not work out well.
What do you mean? Getting to success isn't just a smooth pattern.
Apparently not. Yeah, no, it would make for a better story later. So it did not go well. So what we decided to do was to start our own company. We realized that we started looking at our resumes, our backgrounds, and I was like, you know what? Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got the experience. Let's just take a leap of faith and do it.
When was that? When you
2019?
Yeah, this was
July.
So in the same year y'all go to this company is also the same year you exit the company.
Yes.
Yeah. So y'all were a lot smarter than me. When I had my bad experience, it took a couple of years. You were like, no, we've been here 5 minutes and it's time to roll, baby.
We had to. We saw
every litmus test that we had. It all said it's time to jump ship and start our own.
And now you're still in the program.
No, I'm still.
Okay, you've graduated.
I've graduated from the program.
Okay, you've graduated from the program.
You were still in the program at the time.
Oh, at the time.
Yes,
at the time.
I was still in the program.
But you haven't done the program.
I haven't done the program. No.
Okay, so. And you're getting close to the end of being in the same executive MBA program at TCU. So what drew you to come to the program at that point?
What drew me to go to the program, number one, is him not stop talking about it, how great it was.
We call that bragging rights, by the way.
And of course, talking to our mutual friend, Kevin.
Here, I'll get it right. Or was he going, look, man, not everybody can go to TCU.
Yes. So he was talking
really, the joke is that I didn't want to be the only one in debt. Yes. So I needed you to join me too.
Yeah.
Hey, why as partners should we be $100,000 in debt when we could be $200,000 in debt? You'll never go home, baby.
Because honestly, my whole mentality was, you know what? He's paying all this money for the MBA, but we're partners, so I'm going to be making the same money as him without all the debt. So why would I do this?
I mean, I don't think it's fair, right?
Yeah. But then I got out there and I started talking to people. When I started networking and working with business, because I never ran a business before, and I was getting a bunch of different advice from a lot of different sources, and I had no way of discerning what was good advice versus what was bad advice.
Verifying which is good, which is bad, right?
So it really just and I saw like some of the conversations that Jason and Kevin were having, that they were able to talk on a level I didn't feel like I was able to talk on yet.
So what you're describing right there is the business language, right?
Yes.
Like you can learn Mandarin, you can learn Spanish,
Yes.
You can learn English. Business has its own language as well,
Yes.
right? Its own words and stuff like that. That if you might be able to, I think as we all learned, is Khan Academy is a great tool for going through any MBA program. To go, what? He did explain that in 5 minutes. But you learn that words matter.
Yes.
But if you don't understand what those words are and you're trying to utilize those words inside of a meeting, you're gonna self-identify as the person that does not know what the hell they're talking about, right?
There's a swim test you have to pass.
Yeah.
There's a swim test.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
It definitely helps with that.
So you had completed the program before you started.
Yes.
Right? So that must have been like you were just finishing and then you just starting, right?
Yes. Yeah. I started in August 2020. Actually, I made that decision like within a 2-week time frame. They were getting ready to start the course, and I was like, okay, you know what?
Let me guess, you get a call from Kevin Davis.
Yeah, we actually constantly talked to them. I actually called Kevin. I actually called Kevin and said, you know what? I think I'm ready to do this. He had talked to me about Jason, and Kevin talked to me about beforehand. I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready to do this. He was like, okay, let's do it. Yeah. So, and I went through the whole interview process like within a 2-week time span, all via Zoom, because this is this is right in the midst of COVID. So, and
let's jump into that because. All three of us did the same exact program. You and I probably had more of a similar experience than both of y'all had a similar experience.
I think so, yeah.
In going through the program, right? Because you're going through it and then boom, the world closes.
Yeah, the world was already closed by the time I started. When we started the program. Yeah,
that's right. So you start August 2020.
Yeah.
So you're going in there with a whole different set of...
with the whole mask on and stuff like that. Everything was up in the air. The class trip, we still haven't taken it. Usually it takes halfway through the program, but we still haven't taken it. They're still talking about moving it to the end of the program for us. The class prior to us didn't even get a chance to take that trip. It was, going in there with the mask on and just, dealing with the different personalities of people, wanting to have masks and not having masks and what comfort level they had. Half the class, I still have not met several members of my class in person.
Wow.
Because, they're coming in via Zoom. And so there was that huge, just like, there is some opportunity loss, I feel there, when it came, and just some experience loss, I feel that our class experienced. But then there's also something else that only we can really bond with about what we've had to go through.
Really unique because you're able to go, hey, look, you've had to overcome a certain amount of adversity going through the program that you and I almost can't even comprehend, right?
Right.
I mean, because we were with people face to face, whether we liked them or not.
Yes.
And let's face it, there's at least one person in the class that you're like, I don't hate you, but I damn sure don't love you.
It's a thing, like, and a lot of times, for me personally, it's that after class stuff where people go out and drink and go out and grab something to eat and just hang out with each other.
You find out what the names of each other's kids are.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
That's when you get that part out of it.
Yes, and I feel like I missed out because I've been more cautious about things going forward here with COVID, and for me it was like I'm not going to do that because I don't want to bring this back onto my kids or whatever. So Yeah, so I feel like I've missed out on a lot of that piece of it there.
But the interesting thing is when doors of opportunity seem to have closed, right? Is when they're the biggest opportunities that are there. We got to find them, right? So, I'll give you an example is I've got a group of investors. We developed a fund. We're massively acquisitioning single-family rentals, right? And people are like, how can you pick these things up in a market where there's no inventory? It seems like there was no opportunities. And I said, that's when the biggest opportunities are. It's just harder to find them.
Yes.
You know, you got to peek through it. But when you find it, then it becomes unique because those opportunities that you identify with are going to be opportunities that you have a closer proximity or understanding or connection with that will be harder for someone like you and I, Jason, to understand what that means, that Jarrod's gone through that, right? Because it's like he's got a little bit of a different perspective, right?
Yes.
And the thing that is great, so my wife is my business partner, and which is good and good. I was going to say good and bad, but she listens to me sometimes. But when you have different perspectives as business partners, that's actually a good thing, right? Because it allows you to reduce you're reducing the chances of being stuck in some blind spots because you're going to see things that you're not going to see, Jason. That's right. And Jason, you're going to see things that Jarrod, you're not going to see. And then because of that, that's what helps you grow, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now you got to do the college trip.
Oh,
Matter of fact, we were talking about that there.
That's right.
We got to see each other on that trip.
I saw you in Budapest. Didn't know who you were. Like, who's this loud talking guy? And we're in Budapest, and so it was great. It was a great trip.
My daughter, I travel a lot as it is. For that was part personal and part business trip actually for me. I had an old acquaintance that was in Austria, so we went to Austria after Hungary that had a significant amount of real estate that was passed down to him, and I went there to meet with him because being a part of the Sotheby's brand is we have a global presence, and he was looking to liquidate many of those things, and he was like, hey, I need someone to help give me some guidance on how do I find the right person to help me do that. So we were going to go there anyways. My daughter had just graduated high school. So we were like, hey, this is perfect because we can go take her on this big, long, month-long senior graduation trip and hit a bunch of places, and then I can hit some business meetings along the way. Some of them get written off, which always, is a help and all that. Of course, I was trying to write parts of it off, and my CPA was like, you can't write that portion off. No. Hey, when you're hanging out in Lake Como, and I don't mean Lake Como, Fort Worth. I'm talking about Lake Como in Italy. He's like, ah! And I was like, well, the answer's always no unless we ask, right? So it was really interesting so we were there, and so Sean Carr in your class, I think you probably saw me, you posted something, and he was like, dude, we're in Budapest. And I was like, hey, let's get together and have a drink. Yeah. And then there was many members of your class that were there. We came over there and it was like, hey, guys, what's going on? And
I think you bought drinks for us, too.
That's that's my MO. Hey, you might not do business with me, but I'm going to get you drunk as shit. So, you're everybody's friend when you're picking up the tab, right? You're like, I don't like them, but I do for the next 5 minutes. And so, so it was great, to be able to do that because it is exciting because this world, and there's a lot of people, and you alluded to this earlier, right, is how people feel about things, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the riots, whether it's who's president now, who was president yesterday, who was what, right? There's all these there's all this turmoil, right? And what we all forget is the world, as large as it is actually really small, right? How small of a world is it that as an executive MBA alumni of TCU, I'm in Budapest at the same time your class, Jason, is there. And then as soon as I knew it, and all of it, matter of fact, we had a really nice reservation at our big thing that we do when we travel is let me back up a little bit. To me, when you want to experience a culture you're not familiar with, you can do that through food, right?
Yes.
Food many times tells a story.
Goulash.
Oh, yeah.
Goulash.
Oh, goulash, baby. and so when we plan our trips, we actually plan it around restaurants that I research, right?
Very nice.
And many of these restaurants, I've been very fortunate to be successful in business that I could afford to go to some of these 2- and 3-star Michelin restaurants for these unique culinary experiences. And we actually had a reservation at a Michelin restaurant right after meeting with you guys. And so, but it was exciting. And I was like, so here it is, Laura and Maggie are trying to get ready, getting dressed up and to go, and she was like, this is what you're going to wear. You look like a modified homeless person and hungry because I had grabbed the wrong set of attire for our one nice restaurant thing. But it was great because I was able to go, hey, I want to go see everybody, because how cool is it that by coincidence we happen to be in the same country at the same time. And so that was fun, even though it was 45 minutes, an hour, or whichever. It was just still fun to be able to do that. And to be able to, I had totally forgotten about it till you mentioned it before we came in here, right? And then, but that's the interesting thing is when you go through a program like TCU and you're building businesses such as you both are, is you really see the world in a different capacity. Let me expand on that a little bit. The capacity being that there are, it's not, let me try to crack my words here. Everybody thinks it's all based on miles, but a lot of times it's the inches, right? It's those little things.
Yes.
So you get to go, man, that's really cool. Or Suzanne Carter going, hey, man, we got one of our alumni that's here right now. And you're like, hey, listen, we want to go partying. Well, he's picking up the tab. Okay, we're in, right? and so you get to do that. And even though it's a small segment of time, it's just something really cool, right? Yeah. And then what that does is that helped every human being, and this is, man, you're everybody's story and like fingerprints, they're all individuals, right? I mean, you invoked something in me when you said that. But when you said that, it was just like, you know what? At the end of the day, we actually, as different as we are as human beings, whether tall, short, skinny, bigger, male, female, black, white, Muslim, Christian, whatever, right? All these things that separate us, when we get, those are what I call the miles. Those are the big ones, right? When we separate those, there's really not a lot of those. You realize we got a lot of inches that we actually have in common.
Yes.
Right? And I think that's been part of the problem with this. Well, the world's always had this problem, but I really feel like it's been aggravated here in the last year and a half. People are so focused on the miles that if we focused on the inches of all the things we do have in common, a lot of this bullshit would go away, right?
Oh, man.
Right?
Look, throughout history, whenever we've had real change, it's because someone effectively told the story that got everybody around it so we can all feel the same. The civil rights movement, those stories, the images that you saw of water hose, teenagers, people got that.
Yeah.
That story resonated. Whenever you're able to start at some faraway place and you tell your story and there's something in that story that hooks the listener or the reader, all of a sudden you can take them wherever you want them to go because they're with you.
Yeah.
Their stories have connected.
Yeah.
There's an intersection, and it's the same way with business.
And nobody likes change, right?
Right.
I like change. I'm a pivot person, man. Matter of fact, I like change so much. My wife is like, can you be consistent about one damn thing in your life, right?
Yes.
And we've got another major story going on right now, right? 46 years after we did a very poor job of exiting out of Vietnam, we're doing a very poor job of exiting out of Afghanistan right now, right? And there's a major story going on, and I was with one of my old Marine Corps buddies yesterday. He came by to get me. We're building another company, and we were sitting here talking about it. It's like, look, hey, we were the ones that were on the ground doing this stuff, right? And we're the first to go, we don't want to be there for 20 years. Yeah. But there's definitely a better way to get the hell out of here than what this is, right? And so people are like, what do y'all think? And you're like, man, it's conflicting for us, right? man, we left a lot of blood on the ground only to be able to watch it go away like this. But we're, on the other side of it is like, but we didn't want to stay any longer to leave any more blood on the ground, right? So it's this, but how do we all come together to tell a good story to go, hey, what lessons can we learn? What focus can we put on this to go, what lessons can we learn that we did it wrong twice? And technically almost technically, kind of a hybrid is, you look at, we did the same thing in Korea, right?
Yes.
Except, we made the DMZ zone and separated one continent into two. So we're kind of building a little bit of a history of really screwing this up really bad, right? Is what can we learn and take from that allows us to heal and come together and go, hey, look, at the end of the day, we're still all in this together, right? The last I checked, what color is your blood?
I think it's still red.
Your color is red. Mine is red. Yep. Or as my wife would say, dark. She's like, you're a dark soul sometimes. But that's the thing is like how do we do that? So with you guys being expert storytellers, how would you tell that story?
Yeah.
Honestly,
not totally threw that landmine out there and throw you on the spot.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, thank you.
He's like, thanks for not jumping on that one.
Right. I won't get political, but I will say that it depends on who tells the story. I've ghostwritten books for politicians on the right side of the aisle and those who are on the left, and talking about the same set of facts. But it just depends on who's telling a story. What parts do you leave out? What parts do you include? What parts do you really stress? So I would say it's really important on who tells the story. And
also, I would just add that not just who tells the story, is how you tell a story, how honest you're telling the story. Because I think if you get so many, again, I don't want to get too political, but if you get some of these politicians here, or who are especially the talking, I think it's less the politicians, more the talking heads on some of the cable networks, both sides there. If they would actually really tell a true story, not focused on, trying to appease what they
push an agenda,
or what they perceive as the red meat that their audience wants to hear, and really be honest and tell the truth with themselves when they know better. I think that's what help out also, because there is one thing to tell a story. There's another thing where you're selling BS.
Yeah.
And what we try to focus on when we help people tell a story is that honesty. We go back to the fact that people do business or talk with people they know, like, and trust. By trusting, that last word, we were talking about this before we got on the air here. Trust is something which is so huge. And how can you trust someone who's not honest with you?
Man, and there's something. You're hitting right on the one of my buttons that I just get really passionate about is, guess what? The truth is the truth.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, no alternative
sometimes
facts.
It's very pretty. Sometimes it's very ugly.
Yes.
But it's still the truth. And like we were talking about out there, right? The biggest liar in the room is the one in the mirror.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
Rip the Band-Aid off, tell the truth, and guess what? In my experience in life of almost half a century now, is people don't have to like me telling the truth, but they'll at least respect me for telling the truth, right? So like on Kevin Davis's episode, first epispisode, right? I was like, yep, let's go ahead and dive into this, right? Grew up in a rural town, never met a black person in my life till I got to the Marine Corps. Did I have biases? Hell yeah, I did, right? And it was an environment I grew up in. It was very hard to come out and say something like that, right? Because the first thing we're worried about is, what are people going to say about me? What are they going to judge of me? What are they going to think of me? Right. And at the end of the day, I'd rather look at them and go, hey, they can make whatever assessments or judgments of me they want, but the one thing I know that they're all going to agree on is, well, some bitch was honest about it, right? And at the end of the day, when you tell the truth, regardless if somebody likes you, doesn't like you, loves you, doesn't love you, agrees, doesn't agree with you, at least they can say, well, at the end of the day, we can trust them.
Yes.
Right? And that comes back to that word we were talking about before we came in here is trust. You guys being partners, trust in a partnership. Look, we're all married, right? Look, trust is the hardest thing in the world, right? is because we don't go do anything that makes our wives not trust us anymore, but do we sugarcoat something sometimes? Hell yeah, we do, especially depending on our wife's mood. Like, no, hell no, I ain't coming out on that right now. No, I am not bringing that one up. Oh, no. No, honey, those jeans absolutely really look great right now. Nope, perfect, right? Or whatever the situation may be is, but when you come together and you're sitting there going, okay, man, we're going to have to trust each other. Mm-hmm. But when two humans that you even said, Jarrod, fingerprints are all individual, not the same.
Yeah.
You come together, that trust is tested every time. Maybe not because someone's trying to do something that's distrustful. It's because you have two different perspectives on the same event.
Right.
That's when trust gets tested, because you can actually get to a point. It's like we were talking about Kevin Davis, right? I mean, he is one of my most trusted advisors, and it's mainly because he's never going to agree with anything that I agree with, right? But at the end of the day, is I can trust that he's going to tell me what time it is. And he's not just going to give me some, fairy tale story, because that trust is going to be tested. And at the end of the day, you can go, well, one thing I can trust about my business partner is I can trust that he's going to tell me the truth, even when it hurts, even when I don't agree, and everything else, right? Yeah. And that is hard being business partner. I don't know if you guys would agree with me, and I want you to elaborate on this. Is, to me, I have an opinion that a business partner relationship is harder than a marriage with your spouse.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Let's run with that one.
Well, it depends. Here's what I would say that's helped Jarrod and I, is that we believe honest intent. I know where his heart is. And because I believe honest intent, we can have an argument and not completely disrupt our business, because I know where his heart is. I know that he really cares about what we're trying to do. And so that actually helps. That's the anchor of our trust, is that we believe honest intent.
We believe honest intent, yeah. And it's not so much that what I'm trying to do, it's also the fact of just caring. We care about each other's families. Like I said, I've known his wife for 20 years. He's known my wife for 20 years. So he went to his brother's family. I remember going to his wedding. He was. This is what you've been married. How many years now?
19
years. I remember being there. So we've seen our families, our worlds grow like that. So it's and he's my frat brother too. And not only frat brother, we're brothers. More so than anything, I have my own brother, everything, biological brother, but I also have this brother here. And there's that trust in there. Well, the fact is, and then, the number one thing they say that breaks up relationships is money. Well, first sign of trust, they'll never trust each other, is that when one of us got a check for this company, and we said, okay, we're going to split this a certain way, and we followed through on that. And, because sometimes it's hard, because especially, when we first started, he took a contract job, and it was like, if he could have it was well-paying contract job that he was doing, all the work for. But he brought the check home, and he split it with me and my family while we were getting this business started up there. So I know right there is like, this is someone that I can go through the fire with. And he feels the same way with me, because I was doing the same thing with him. We would bring in, I would do something where I would go out and, get a contract there where I was doing the majority of the work, where he wouldn't touch it, but, I brought the check home, and we, put it in the account, and we split it. It's like, here's your cut, here's my cut, here's the business cut. Because we need this to grow there. And that's a trust right there, especially dealing with money. That's a huge trust.
Money will test trust more than anything, right?
Boy, what you talking?
Yep.
And let me tell you, that is the truth teller right there. And that's why I use this saying on.
Ask Judas. That's what happened.
Yeah, I use this saying that I'm getting ready to tell you. I don't even know how many shows, and I raised my daughter telling her, like, look, reputation cannot be bought with money. It can only be built with time.
Yes.
Wow. Time is a commodity. We can't buy more of or get a refund on it once spent. But you can lose that reputation in a matter of seconds and over a single dollar, right?
Wow.
And that is, and you're right. Is, let's be honest. You got to tell each other the truth. not just in when times are difficult, but you also got to trust each other not to tell each other what we want to hear, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, if I need you to tell me what time it is, I need you to tell me what time it is.
Yes.
Don't give me some, Walt Disney, fairy tale stuff. Tell me what time it is, because if you've got that trust, because here's man, this is where I get really excited, guys. When you have trust like the both of you guys have, you're unstoppable.
Right.
It's a superpower, right? There is no competition, right? You guys don't have competition.
No.
You're really competing with each other to stay trustful, retain the integrity and everything else. You're competing to deliver that value for your clients. All the other competitors out there, they're just other businesses.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right?
That's exactly
And
it.
so now, being in business with each other, y'all are now 2 years into business, right?
Yes.
2 years. 2 years.
2
in.
years?
Yeah.
Right.
Life has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
I ran for office.
Did you?
Yeah. He was my campaign manager, so it still worked out.
Hey, well, something came out of it. You still trust him. And he was trying to be a politician. You still trust him.
And we're still good. We've refined our business model even more to where we've got 4 solid products. We stay in our lane, and to God be the glory, man. We're making it work.
That's
Making it
awesome.
work.
So, what would you say in the 2 years of building your partnership has been like some extreme challenges? Like, man, we didn't calculate for that one.
It's really trying to, for me, it's really focusing who we are. Yeah, so I talked about
clients.
talk about the client. Yeah, it's we've had situations where scope creep was a huge thing.
Yes.
Where we had one client which was where they were doing a restaurant, and I was we're trying to write stories, and I was thinking, but when I was out there trying to source cups for their restaurant, and once they even trying to find boxes so they could put their product in, and like these are things like I didn't sign in to do this, so we had a real earlier this year we had a real just come to Jesus meeting with each other and say, you know what, we need to focus ourselves. We need to get back to reason why we did this. It is to tell stories clearly and effectively for our clients. Yeah. And we identify, four base platforms there. It is, it's books and manuscripts are our number one thing that we do. That's what separates, that's what makes us unique, is the fact is that we can write your book more effectively, more efficiently than anyone else. And that's ghostwriting. Basically, stand in the back and make sure that you are on stage and you get the glory. So we do that piece of it. Then we also have white papers that we write for companies. We have
for the audience, what does that mean, white papers?
White papers.
It's a research paper.
Research paper.
So think of it like a literary form of your business plan, all expanded out, answering the questions of who has your money and why should they give it to you. That's the white papers that we do.
Okay, and then go into ghost story, right? Or ghostwriting. Ghostwriting.
Yeah.
All right, explain that one for them.
Yeah, so this is fun. This is where you actually get inside the head of a person. You become their mouthpiece. You are their words.
That sounds dangerous sometimes,
though.
I
would love to get inside there. Yeah, see, a lot of the executives we write for, they have a story. They just don't have time to tell it.
Or the talent sometimes.
Or the talent. Stringing sentences together, it can be kind of tough to be able to write an active voice and make it engaging for the reader. And so that's where we come in with our expertise without changing your message. We still speak in your voice. We're still Jeremy when we write for you.
How do you do it? That's to me, that does not seem like a learned talent. That seems like a natural talent that you either have the ability to do that or not, in my opinion.
Some of it is that, and some of you can train yourself. It goes back to what Jarrod was talking about, listening, understanding, and then we tell it. But listening is so key. We listen to how people phrase things, what they get excited about. You're talking about your dad jokes. You light up every time you mention your business partner as your wife. Man, I pick up on those things. And so if I'm writing for you, I'm going to stress those things. And if I'm writing an article about you or a speech that you're giving, I'm going to make sure that that's front and center because that's who you are. That's you being authentic.
Man, that's... one of the things I'm always absolutely amazed by this show is... when we all started the executive MBA program, one of the very first things we hear is you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And even things I think I know about, that's why I was like, okay, wait a minute. I've I know of white papers and I know of ghost writing, but I really didn't know what either one of those meant until y'all just said that, right? And I'm like, okay, that's really interesting. And it sounds like, look, if you want to go diving into people's brains, that's something that you've got to want to do something like that. I had some experience doing that. So I worked violent sex crimes as a detective for Fort Worth PD. I was very effective at catching, especially serial predators, because I had to dive into their mind and figure out where they were going to strike next. What was their MO? What was it about the victims that they chose, the geographic locations that they chose? And that's the reason I was kind of made the comment. I was like, that sounds like that can be dangerous because once you climb between somebody's ears, you don't forget what you learn, what's between their ears, right?
Yeah. And also is just that thing, what's just meeting you today, people, when they see you or they hear the podcast, here's Jeremy Spann, he has his podcast, his entertaining podcast, and he's successful. They don't know about that story that you have behind you, what got you to this point. And when you told us that, it's like we were just captivated by you telling your story earlier today when we met up front.
It wasn't an elevator that went straight to the top. No, it was rock climbing.
Like the Empire State Building. We had every floor all the way up, right?
Man, you had some serious steps that you had to take, and it wasn't a straight shot.
That zigzag is real, and people don't understand that. They see the peak of that iceberg, but you know what? It wasn't that peak that took down the Titanic. It was the whole iceberg.
I tell you, it's a zigzag. It's a zigzag that makes it interesting. People want to know that. They want to know the struggles. How you almost lost it all, how you did lose it all, and fought your way back.
And that's what this show's about, right? This show is about, hey, look, there's a lot of people that you see the results.
Yes.
You see the fruit that the tree has produced, but they didn't see what all went into planting the tree, growing the tree, curing the tree, and everything else, or how many hailstorms, windstorms, fires, and everything else that go through
or the manure, the fertilizer.
Right, the manure, all the shit that came with it, right? Literally. and that's what, so Erin, my producer, she did an incredible job of spending months with me, of asking me so many questions, because I was like, I've wanted to do a podcast for 2 years, and she's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I feel like this is, I feel like I'm a pretty good storyteller, but I'm more interested by other people's stories, right? I'm intrigued by people. It goes back to that Marine Corps thing, right? I go growing up from a rural area, and then I meet just about every different culture you could ever hear from people that were not only all over the U.S., but were not even born in the U.S. And finding out, it was like, oh, they got an interesting story there. And I just became intrigued by people. And Erin did a really good job of interviewing me, and she goes, you know what? Here's what it is. Your podcast is going to be targeting high performers, intellectuals, and successful folks that got there.
How did we get on the show?
Kevin was like, "Hey, these guys got a journey. They've been through some shit, right?" But it was to be able to tell, to be able to show people. Actually, if I had to sum it up, this show is really codependent for all of us, right? Because we get to sit there and listen to the different episodes and go, I'm not alone.
Yes.
Right? Oh, wow. You can actually screw up in this world and still be successful.
Yes. Yeah.
Or guess what? To be successful, you're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes, right? Or you're going to go be a part of a new company. You're going to come into it, and then months later, you're not going to be like, nope, we're out, right? Because anytime we go home to our families and say, oh, yeah, hey, we're going to change jobs again, they love hearing that. And then especially I can, because I've been there, hey, not only did we, Jason and Jarrod, we came together to go to this company. We decided it's not going to work out, but instead we're going to go home or go broke. We're going to start our own business. I'm sure the spouses were like, that sounds great.
My wife was the most patient human being on the planet. I can just tell you that. She, in a year's time frame, I quit my job, quit a second job, started a new company, and decided, hey, I'm going to go spend $100,000+ on going to school. And just her patience and just, willingness to and just, I give her so much credit because there are times, if anyone who's been on this journey, there have been times where you're like, you know what, this isn't worth it. I just want to go, I give up because things aren't going the right way. And to her credit, she said, no, I want you, because this is your dream. I know you're not going to be happy going back to what you're doing.
That's it. It's the fear of not jumping.
Yes.
Your wife was like my wife, and they know that we could not live with ourselves if we did not jump.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much money we're spending, if we didn't take that leap, that would just... We would rot. There's no way I could live with myself.
The thing is, we've already taken the leap. The thing is now is like, okay,
that wasn't just a leap. That was a pole vault, right?
Are we looking for those life preservers now that we're taking that leap, or looking to grab onto some rock? But the thing is, it's just the patience that both our wives have had to keep encouraging us to say, you know what, it's going to be hard today, but you know what, I'm with you.
Yeah,
and it's better to do something terrifying, right?
Yeah,
because it is starting your own business, right? Yeah. Is terrifying. Dropping more than $100K on an education that's terrifying, right? And hey, let's face it, we're not in our 20s, right? We're not young men, right? And you're just like, hey, man, mid 40s. I mean, this sounds like a great idea. Let's go do this, right? So it's all terrifying. Like a recent example of this is. So I got a couple of companies, got the fund, got the real estate stuff, restaurant, all this other stuff. But part of my real estate fund is these properties need to be maintained, right? And I had this young guy that came to work with me on this about a little over a year ago, and great guy, great kid, man. And I say kid because he's in his 20s, and. This business was blowing up, right? I mean, I finally was doing everything right where the investors were coming in. Never thought I'd be in a position where I actually was receiving more money than I could go spend, right? Good problem to have, but also equally as terrifying. Turns out when people want to give you a couple $100 million, they don't go, hey, let me know how it goes, right? They got their hands so far up my ass, I feel like a ventriloquist, right? I'm like, whoa. I spent 2 hours on the phone with an attorney going over one word in a contract, right? It's just all these different parts. But I was like, hey, a part of us being able to scale is I was like, you're going to have to stop doing this part-time. You're going to have to be full-time. I will help you build a company. I built a lot of successful companies, but I've screwed up more companies than I've built that were successful, so I know what not to do, right? So for 90 days leading up to it, I was like, hey, man, come in August, I'm going to need you to be full-time. And if you're not, then it's not because of my lack of love for you. I mean, I've invested a lot of time and spent a lot of money with you doing my properties. But if you're not going to make that jump, I'm going to have to move on. And so Sunday, I get an email from him. That was the only part I was a little disappointed in him if he's listening to this. And because when we do get to see each other face-to-face, I plan on having this conversation face-to-face, after paying you a bunch of money, investing a lot of time in you couldn't pick up the phone and call me, you had to send me an email. That, I'm not gonna lie, that one irked me a little bit. But the curse of that created a blessing of, well, I'm not gonna sit around and wait, because as business owners, right, we don't have the luxury of a thing called time, right? We gotta figure it out, and we gotta figure it out quick. And so I happened to have an old Marine Corps buddy. So this was Sunday. By the way, we're not talking weeks ago. I'm talking about this past Sunday. Wow. Right? 2 hours before an old Marine Corps buddy gets into town, who had just lost his job. He was running a nonprofit up in Montana, and he was working with another friend, right? And his friend, after a week after he closed on his house there, this friend fired him, right? Also, Marine Corps buddy. I mean, things happen, right? I mean, that's the thing. That's when I say, look, partnerships can be really they can be. Let me phrase it this way. I can't imagine what it's like to be in a marriage when it's bad, because a marriage is tough enough when it's great, like I have it, right? It's constant work, it's constant curating, it's constant, am I doing the right thing, holding each other accountable, that I can't imagine what it's like when it's contentious or divorce or any of these other things, or abusive or whatever else. I can't even fathom that thought when it's this hard when it's great, right? So same thing with business partnerships and relationships. But saying I use, everything that's a blessing is a curse, everything that's a curse is a blessing. So the curse of him hitting me with that, and I was a little curious. So when I flew in yesterday morning, I had already had scheduled a dinner with him that we were going to have a real talk of going, hey man, you got 48 hours to give me a real no kidding answer on you want to go do this or not, right? And so getting that email, but Chris was coming into town and I was just like, hey, your timing couldn't be more impeccable. Do you want to go build a company together? And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, let's go build a company. And I was like, hey, by the way, this startup, we've already got the book of business. A lot of startups don't have that already book of business, right? You got to, hey, let's get together, form it, and then let's go look for the bit. I was like, we've already got it, which evolved into another Marine Corps buddy of ours who's been doing some 1099 work. And so yesterday morning, when we both got up at 4, he was driving back to Texas. I didn't want to make the drive, so I was like, well, I'm going to go drive 45 minutes to Rango's airport and take an hour and a half flight. And so, but on the way there, I called our other buddy, Eric, and who's been on my show. And I just said, hey, I've talked to Chris with this. It's Chris's to turn down, but if he does turn it down, do you want it? And he was like, yeah, let's go talk yesterday afternoon. And then, but it quickly evolved into, you know what actually would make this better is both of y'all are like Laura and I. Chris, you're the me in this, and you're going to go and you're going to drive in the business. But your ability to give a shit about details and rules don't matter, just like me. Kaz cares about details and rules. He's like, Laura, that's what makes it really good. You two should talk about that. And then this morning, because I was like, hey, either way, guys, by Saturday, I need an answer because I'm on a tempo of buying 2 houses a week, and that stops until I have this solution. And I was like, so if you do agree with it, it starts that day. And so this morning they were both like, we're in. And I was like, cool. So it's the blessing for them because they're going to take it and they're going to kill it. And the curse for the young man is, because when the 3 of us were talking this morning, they were like, man, we need to tell him thank you because he doesn't realize that he literally had a multi-million-dollar company overnight. Multi-million-dollar company. Like, I mean, just billable stuff over the next 4 months is in the tune of $250,000.
Wow.
That's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
You know, and by the way, that's just over the next 4 months. I mean, with, you know, won't bore you with all the details of what we're creating here because that'd be a whole nother episode itself, probably a series of 6. Is
at least a story that you can tell.
Right, story. Hey! Don't think that I have not been paying attention, gentlemen, and don't think that we aren't going to be talking again very soon on this. But it was okay, guys, hot and fast. Let's go. We've already got it together because, and actually, I was really glad I said yes this morning because I'm going to record one more after you guys, and then I got to go meet the big money investors, right? To go walk some of these properties and say, hey, this is where we're at, this is what we're doing. And so we're able to do that. But the good thing is the thing I know about these 2 guys, because we were all Marines together, I trust them, right? And I'm like, look.
Goes back to trust.
Goes back to trust every time. Right, and then now I'm going to look at them and to be like, "Hey, by the way, I got the dynamic duo that can tell our story." By the way, and so that's how all this comes together, right? And then it goes fast, you know. And both of these guys are beside themselves, like, "Wow, this is really going to happen." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is in. This is it. This is how this works. This is how this happens." And then they trust me to go, hey, you said that this can work. We've seen you make other things work, so we know we trust you. Aside from the Marine Corps stuff, right? To go, let's go take this and kill it and rock it, right? And then so what really is funny is when one door closes, another one opens. One thing seems like a curse, the other one is half full. Or as my audience has heard me say probably 1,000 times, some people, the glass is half full. Some people, the glass is half empty. And then the engineer says the glass is the wrong size.
That's right.
Yep. And so that's really great. And you know what? I do believe that when you have great people that we're all surrounded, like it's like we were going to be in this room or another room. You had already been in one room, and you know before, regardless of because when we're all the same, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Right? We have more inches in common than we do miles.
That's what it sticks with.
right?
That's it.
And it's because of those inches that we go, man, this is great. And then the timing of you guys being here is oh yeah, hey, by the way, guys, we're gonna need some extra money because we need these guys to go tell the story on this. And that's what makes things really, really cool, is because if more folks did like what we're doing here right now, guess what? There's always going to be bad things in this world. There's always going to be hate in this world. There's always going to be all that. But the world would be a hell of a lot better, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So
I think it is so hard to hate someone that you actually sit down and talk with. It really is. If someone who's willing to share their story with you, it's hard to hate them.
It really is.
Yeah. So that's just such a profound thing on that. So yeah.
So your guys' company, right? Y'all are rocking it. Y'all are doing it. Where is your company a year from now?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
Yeah.
I would say a year from now, we are helping even more people writing books, writing white papers, customer success stories. We're just helping out even more. We're expanding our network, meeting more people like yourself, and we're starting to have the word of mouth business where people are coming to us. Right now, we're being very aggressive in trying to get our message out about the company. I see more people coming to us because they've heard about the great work that we're doing. That's always the goal.
So, like any good business folks, right? You're hyper focused, right?
Hyper-focused.
So, what does the picture of the ideal client look like for you? Give me a couple bullet points. So, the audience out there listening right now is like, oh, wait a minute, check. Hey, wait a minute, I fit what they're looking for, right? What would you say are some of the highlights of who it is that you're looking for? What kind? Give me some highlights.
I like, and you'll chime in with what you want, but I want a company that feels like they're stagnant. They feel like they're in a commodity type business. They've kind of lost the passion, and they want to be able to find an edge over their competition. We can help them out because then it's just a matter of telling your story to kind of get you to the next level. In addition to that, looking at more individuals on just more of the book writing practice, is that we want those folks who are, they want to make that move in the company. They care about their brand, about how people perceive them. They either, getting ready to want to go on a public speaking tour, or they want to start, a podcast or like that, and they're looking to enhance their credibility. That's when we want them to come to us, that we can help them with several things, creating that manuscript to write their life, to write their story, or if they have a new process of how they want to go about doing things, and they need help explaining that, or they invented something new, or they need help explaining that. Those are the type of folks that we want coming to us, and just really saying, you know what, I have this great concept and all these great stories to tell, but you know what, I've been sitting there trying to write this book for 5 years.
Oh, we get that a lot.
Yeah, and I just like something happens, and I really want to get done. Come to us, and we are going to use our skills and talents to help you tell your story, because in the end, it is your story that we're telling. And we're going to do what we can to make sure that we understand and really care about your story, to make sure it's told from a point of view that you're proud of. Wells you up to say, like, you know what, I can't, honestly, what the best compliment for us is, like, I really can't believe that my story is excellent, but this is me, but it just, almost doesn't even feel like me. It feels like, like Uber me, something like that. And this is something that those are some of the best compliments that we have, that we've gotten when they see that and actually go through it and see, you know what, this is so important to me. This is something that, that my kids can actually see, you know what, their mother or father was this, they meant something in this world. They did something in this world. They came and left the ground better than they found it. So, and this helps encapsulates that.
So we tell stories for individuals, what Jarrod is talking about with the books, and we also tell stories for companies. Companies trying to separate themselves from others, and we tell stories for individuals.
Yes.
Give me an example on one for a company.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're just starting out, and you've got a business plan. You've got the funding, but now you need to be able to set the stage for your marketing initiatives and all the other things that kind of come with it. You need to have a good white paper. A white paper kind of just spells everything out. It talks about who has your money. Those are your customers. How are they going to pay you, or why should they pay you? Well, those are your differentiators. Those are those things that tackle Michael Porter's 5 forces. You know, all of those different issues, that's spelled out in your white paper, right? And then you take that white paper, that's your main document. Man, your company is set up. Once you have a good white paper, you've got your blueprint for everything else you do. Your marketing initiatives, your social media strategy, everything. It's all one document. You're ready to.
In addition to that, there's also customer success stories that we can write. That basically we are able to go out and talk to your customers, and they are the best advocates to explain
Those are your
how
ambassadors.
you do the ambassadors of how you do your business. Why did I choose this company over their competition? What was the experience like working with said company, with your company, and just really having that piece, have that capture. That's what's a term called evergreen marketing. It's something that you can actually use throughout because it really encapsulates your process and what you're trying to sell. It answers that question. What we said in the beginning: why does my company exist? This helps those customer success stories. You exist through the eyes of your customers. You perceive through the eyes of your customers. If they can tell, if they can advocate for you, that is the best marketing you can have. I don't care how many, Facebook ads you put out, how many YouTube videos you put out. If you don't have those customers really singing your praises in more than just a paragraph Yelp post,
Right.
It's one thing to talk about. What Jason would like to talk about also is the fact is that social media is great, but social media is just a tool. You could have, LinkedIn, Facebook, Yelp, Twitter, all that. All that is just a tool. Unless you have a solid story to input into that tool, it is useless to most people.
You gotta have a story worth sharing.
Yes.
You gotta have the story.
It has to
right
be
first.
shaped properly.
Right.
Yeah. And we can help people shape and craft that story to where it's most effective.
Yeah, when I was at the editor of the Dallas Business Journal, Dallas, North Texas, we have so many middle market companies. I mean, thousands of these wonderful companies, 10 million to 750 million in revenue or so. And a lot of them are kind of commoditized. The only thing separating one from the other is a story that's being told about it. That's how they go from good to great. That's how they be able to make the leap. They have to have their story expand beyond the confines of their local circle, and they have to be able to get it out. And it takes experts to be able to help you do that.
So your guys' timing is impeccable.
Okay.
I am not just intrigued, but fascinated by the both of you. Not just what y'all do and how you do it, but just both of y'all as business partners, your stories and everything else, and just that very word we were talking about, trust. Like I feel that just sitting in the presence of you guys, is that trust. I have an issue, and the issue came from a place of ego. So we were talking about kind of my journey, how to get to where I'm at and whatnot. And then when my wife sold her company to Sotheby's and agreed to stay on and manage, and then a year later, after I had completely shit the bed, she said, why don't you get a license and come help me? And then after my first 90 days, I was like, man, this is where I'm supposed to be. And even though I had done an executive MBA and taken a marketing class, apparently didn't pay attention in that marketing class and decided to call this thing the Spann Group. And I call it the Spann Group because it was me and Laura Spann. Well, it has since evolved into that. And even though we've been number one year after year, and even though we've been number one in the most outgoing referrals to other Sotheby's offices, they even featured us they do every 18 months a global networking event, and they showcased Laura and I for being very successful at it. But I'm coming up on a pigeonhole real quick because there's a lot more people that are a part of this team that are not Spanns.
Yes.
And I don't want to do real estate for the rest of my life. But the fear and issue I have is if I change, and I know, and I've had this conversation for a while. Laura and I talk about this all the time. It's like the worst mistake I ever made, right, was calling this thing the Spann Group. I wish I would have called it something else that doesn't give people the assumption that they have to have a span. Because guess what? They're more likely going to deal with someone that is not a Spann. Yeah. And by the way, that's a good thing because they're a lot better at it than we are. Yes. and so I've had this branding dilemma weighing on me for the last 2 years. Because my fear, right, and we've talked about that dirty little 4-letter word, is making a branding change could potentially cost me a volume of business, because you go through that chasm to get back up to the other side of the creek there. You got to go through that fear trench to get to the other side. I'm sitting here thinking that I got 2 gentlemen that can probably help us out with that. Help us navigate that. And that is when we wrap up this show. I want that conversation to continue to help over the next 2 years get us there.
Okay.
I mean, man, I heard what you guys have said, and I need your help.
Okay.
I need your help.
Yeah,
come help me navigate that, because you know what? My team deserves a brand that represents all of us, not with a brand that just has my last name on it.
Right.
Y'all up for that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Totally. You want to bring your customers on the journey with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way they get hooked is through your story.
Yep. Yeah, definitely feel like, we'll strap on our capes and, we'll come into the rescue on that.
Hey, listen. Come strapped, brother. Like having a tiger by the tail. So, and I'm serious about this. I'm absolutely 100% serious about this, because that has been my internal struggle for 2 years of going, why the hell did I did it? And I did it out of ego. I'll be the first to admit, right? Biggest liar in the room is one in the mirror, right? So I had to have a real conversation going, you did that because of that little dirty 3-letter word, ego, right? And then now, my team is the one our clients want to deal with, not me. I'm not that detail oriented. I don't even like showing houses. I get bored real easy. I'm like, hey, look, man, I've looked at so many houses, man. You've seen one, it's small, right? That paint is ugly as hell. That was, I can really care less.
There's a door, there's a wall.
Guess what? And the roof works. Is that, our clients deserve that. Not just our present and past clients, but our future clients. So we're going to continue this conversation. How you guys are going to help us in that journey get there.
Oh, we're excited. We're excited for it. Yeah,
I love it.
To work with you.
One of the things that we did to check our egos is we call ourselves storytellers. That's it. Everybody who comes in the company, whether you've been in from the beginning like Jarrod and I, or you just got in, you're a storyteller. We don't walk around, I'm CEO, president, vice president. I'm a storyteller. Storyteller. You know? And for us, that sends a message, and also to our clients, that if it's a Marketing MAB storyteller, you're going to get the best. And so that was by design. Yeah. And I'm glad we did that.
Yeah. There's humility that goes into it, especially working with a partner. It's like, you know what, it's you gotta check the egos, because there are gonna be some hard times.
We've had some long talks.
A lot of late nights.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to wrap all these up by, let's go back to 20-year-old self. Not that we think that 20-year-old self would listen to us, but if we had a time machine and we found out that we could take an advantage of going back for 5 minutes to have a conversation with 20-year-old self to say, I heard a rumor that you're willing to listen to future self on one thing and one thing only. Jason, what would that be telling 20-year-old self?
Be bold. Be bold. I think the 20-year-old self was nervous. Cared too much about what people thought about him. If I could counsel him, I would say, be bold. Just be bold. And don't stress. Be bold. I think that's it.
Sound advice. That's a big bar to
It's a
level
big
up
part.
right there.
So,
What you got, big fella?
Well, for me, I would tell my 20-year-old self to listen to what is something that my 8th grade teacher taught me when I was, My mom was in Desert Storm. My brother and I, we had to go to, the Tampa, Florida for a couple of months, and there was only 4 months there. But this teacher taught me something which I teach my kids now. He gave me a phrase. He said, "Never wait for someone to give you a chance. The measure of true greatness is to create your own chances." I would tell my 20-year-old self to listen to those words and actually live those words. Don't wait until you're in your 40s to start create your own chances, and just follow the path that has been laid out. Create your own chances now. So that's what I would tell myself.
Man, talk about dropping wisdom on some audience.
Also,
right?
probably give him some stock tips because
Hey, by the way,
been a rich man.
Go long on Apple. Go long on Apple. And if you hear a thing called SpaceX, might not be a bad thing.
Right.
Although Bitcoin, I don't know, man, it could be hit or miss. Buy low, sell high. So the audience wants to learn more about you, your company, how to get in touch with you. Where do they go? What do they click on? What email, phone number, whatever you guys want to put out there. All
right, you can go to www.themarketingmab.com.
MarketingMAB.com.
Yes, the marketing.
That's us. You'll find us.
Yes, and you can also find us on LinkedIn. Search the Marketing Mob on LinkedIn, or you can contact at themarketingmob.com is going to be the way you can reach us, and then phone numbers, everything else will be on there.
Well, and for the audience that's out there listening right now, in case you missed that, you can always go to our website, myexperiencerealtor.com, click on podcast, go down to read more with Jason and Jarrod, and we'll have all these connections on there. And as usual, if you're looking to buy and sell real estate anywhere on the planet, go to that landing page, click Find a Trusted Professional, and we'll get you someone that's not a moron. And, and I know it doesn't sound really professional. Laura gets really annoyed. That's the whole reason I do that. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there that don't deliver value. We're going to make sure we find you someone that does. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What do you think, guys?
Good
stuff.
stuff. Well, yes.
Yeah.